Hello, Trojan fans. Welcome to another edition of the Peristyle Podcast on a Tuesday. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, joined alongside Chris Trevino. We're going to be talking about this USC football team that is now 6-0, bowl eligible, heading into the halfway mark of the season, and then the toughest game so far on the slate, going to Salt Lake City to take on the Utah Utes. So we're going to talk about all that and break it all down. If you have any questions or comments for the show, you can email us, podcast@uscfootball.com, or you can call or text us at 424-254-9141. Please leave us a text message or a brief voicemail. We'd love to play it on the air. And if you have the Apple podcasting app, please leave us a 5-star review, positive rating. All that stuff helps to grow the show. We got some new reviews I want to read in a second, but I want to welcome in Chris. You look a little tired there, Chris. So what's up?
A little tired.
Yeah, it's okay.
But these reviews are going to wake me up, especially if there's a sneak diss at the bottom.
I don't think there is one. I think there's a good one.
Did you read these? Or you reading?
I pre-read these ones.
Okay.
Unlike last week, you weren't going to get, schnookered or whatever.
Schnookered?
It was a sneak attack or something that came in there. But we are simulcasting this on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Inside Troy. So if you're watching us live, thank you very much for doing that. If you're watching the replay, that's really cool too. And if you're listening on the regular podcasting platforms that we always put up with Spotify or Google Play or any of those, thank you for that as well. So it's this is a podcast, so it's normally just for the podcast feed, but we've started doing these video simulcasts, and they've seemed to people kind of like them. So we're going to keep doing them. Questions we'll get to at the end of the show, and we're going to do our questions that people have wrote in or called in or texted in. But also, if you are watching live on YouTube, you have an opportunity to put a question in the chat box. If you put question in front of your question, I will star it and then look back later on and go back and play it and stuff like that. So, Chris, are you ready for the reviews?
Born ready.
All right, let's go. We have a 5-star from Mark Judd. Great listen. I work in Santa Monica, live in Long Beach, traveling on the 405, and complete traffic is thankfully manageable because of this podcast. I love the team and their in-depth knowledge of the program. Keep up the great work. No shot at you.
Long Beach?
LBC.
There we go.
He lives in Long Beach, works in Santa Monica.
There we go.
Gentryman 18. This is interesting. Survivalists Ryan and Chris place themselves in unique survival situations in each podcast that demonstrate how one might survive dealing with annoying Trojan fans that no matter how much better the team is, they find a way to complain about mundane issues such as special teams, towel guys, etc. I don't know if special teams are mundane, but whatever. With minimal love from their own fan base and obnoxious Oklahoma trolls in the chat waiting for Riley's demise, Ryan and Chris, time after time, show their aptitude to weave through the utter nonsense while preaching about how great Trader Joe's is.
I think that encapsulates so much.
It does. We're not hearing much from the Oklahoma trolls anymore, though. I'm not.
Awfully quiet.
Yes. Being 3-3, one of the only two teams in the nation to be shut out so far, to a rival. Yes, but you're probably not going to be talking about Lincoln Riley too much, or at least talking to us about it. You can talk internally and say Lincoln Riley's the reason we stink, but you're probably not going to be, tweeting or chatting with USC media people that have nothing to do with us anyway, but that's what they were doing before. ZWG55. This is for you, Chris. Put some respect on Chris T's name. Love the podcast, especially the episodes where both Ryan and Chris are on, like this one. Anyone who insults Chris needs their mouth and fingers taped shut. Chris is absolutely a legend. Love Ryan and Chris's point of view on USC football. This podcast is a must listen and watch.
I absolutely wrote that one myself.
I was going to say.
What'd you think of my
brother?
What do you think of my? Yeah, I paid him $5.
Hey, well worth it.
Worth it.
I'm none the wiser, and I would have read it anyway. We got one last one, another 5-star, 209. It's from just a number. So it says, long overdue, thank you. I've been listening to this podcast for years and can't believe it's taken me this long to say, quote, thank you. I've enjoyed listening to Ryan Keeley, Dan Weber, Coach Hyde, Shotgun, Chris for years, even when I couldn't stomach watching some of the games. More recently, I can't believe how much I've enjoyed the Composite 2-Star podcast. Finally, an outlet for Gerard to talk endlessly about recruiting with Chris, while Chris fails miserably to keep the podcast length brief. So it wasn't a failure for your part. It's just about you can't.
I thought that was going somewhere.
I thought it was too.
I thought it was too.
I'm like, did someone sneak in a dig and I missed it? Looking forward to continued success. Wishing Dan and Keeley well, and looking forward to the first ever 24-hour recruiting podcast.
That was a joke, and now it's becoming like a real thing.
Oh.
Ryan, people want us to go 24-hour stream.
24-hour stream, and that could be kind of fun. I mean,
yes, you would have to come on and help us fill several hours.
You would need like rotating, hosts. Now Gerard could just keep talking. He could do 24 hours.
Not necessarily hosts. I would just need some guest people to come on.
Oh, okay.
Just to like do a couple hours to wake me up.
Nice.
Splash water in my face, But thank you for all those reviews. Those are really 5 stars.
Those are like pump me up a little bit. So thank you for those. They do help to grow the show. So thanks for doing all that. I want to thank our sponsor, Trader Joe's, as well, because they've been amazeballs to us over the years. It's been so cool. Great stuff. I brought a bunch of Trader Joe's snacks to a tailgate I went to this weekend. If you guys know the USC Psycho, Roy, they do a big tailgate outside the Coliseum, so I stopped by. Shout out to Vic, who cooked my ribeye perfectly. It was awesome, but I brought a whole bunch of Trader Joe's snacks, including these guys. So they're organic elote corn chip dippers. And the reason I bring these ones up, I just had some for lunch, but the reason I bring them up is because our very first read, very back in the beginning, Chris, before you were even around, like
before I was born,
maybe not before you were born, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, that was in the first read. I remember just saying elote a whole bunch of times, like organic elote corn chips. And then I got some, and I had them back then, but I hadn't had them for a long time. So
how far you've come?
Full circle.
You were a young man then.
I don't know about that. I was probably still an old man then, but it was good. All right, well, let's get to some stuff. USC defeats Washington State 30-14. Covered the spread. Defense gets a shutout in the second half. Travis Dye.
149 yards.
149 yards.
Grown man running.
USC leads the nation in sacks. Tuli Tuipulotu. Poof. Man. 3 sacks. 4 tackles for loss. Defensive. The defensive lineman of the week in the Pac-12 and the defensive player of the week in the Pac-12. If I got that. That's what I voted for. I assume he won. I know. He won, right? And and your buddy Nick Figueroa, a couple sacks for him.
2 sacks.
Not bad. We were talking about, and I know we got some suggestions on what we should do as far as like quick recap, because it's already Tuesday and we've already had a practice getting ready for Utah. But I like your take it or leave it. So maybe we'll do those.
Yeah. I'm not going to improv these unless maybe I wrote a couple down.
Okay.
Because I'm a professional, and So let me just stall here while I pull up my thingamabobber.
I'll put up some comments because we got some people saying hello to us. So while you're doing that, I'll put those up. So, thanks everyone if you're in the chat saying hello. Fat Bank says Chrissy T's always rubbing his eyes during the podcast. So Tuesday's a long day for us. Like we're
sleepy, man.
We got a lot going on a Tuesday, and it's like before the show. It was, and I had to do like a national hit for 247 right before it too. Chris brought lunch this time. Sometimes I bring lunch, and we're scarfing things down, putting up videos from practice, putting up instant analysis. Chris has watched some video or something, and then boom. And then usually Chris has to do the 2-star afterwards. And I don't want to. Should we tell everyone, or we're not saying anything, or
it's canceled?
No 2-star.
Like forever?
Not forever. Just this week.
Okay, yeah, no 2-star this week. Not my call.
Yeah.
Gerard had some stuff to catch up on. He's very behind on some recruiting lists and all that, so he wants to get a jump on that. So, it's a canceled for this week. I know people are going to be going crazy. You can show me those comments later. And you would never know I was rubbing my eyes if Ryan didn't want to do this live. But
we do videos.
I can't not. Okay, let's get into this.
Okay.
I got it up. Obviously, USC. Damn it, obviously. USC had a really good defensive performance. Another one, strong second half. Killed it. Second half shutout. So, take it or leave it, Ryan.
Yeah.
USC, through 6 weeks, now that we're here at this point, USC is the best defense in the Pac-12.
Wow. I think I'm going to leave that one.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
it is the best scoring defense in the Pac-12. They have played the most Pac-12 games as well. I think they played Fresno State when they were actually pretty good. Rice has turned out to be a pretty decent team. I don't know about the take it for being the best defense, but they're up there. They're a lot. They're not getting enough credit, and they're still not getting enough credit. And then I tell people they have the best scoring defense in the Pac-12, and they're kind of like, like Washington State's defense is real good. Utah's not as good as we thought. I don't know if there's a great defense. I think you could certainly make the argument for USC's. And talk to me after this Utah game.
I'll talk. Oh, I'm going to talk to you. I'm contractually obligated to talk to you.
If they're still the number one scoring defense after this weekend, I will call them the best defense in the Pac-12.
So you're saying this will be the final push?
This will be
I
will say this is the best defense if they continue to be the number one scoring defense. That means they don't give up 30 to Utah. It's more if they give up like 21 or less, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Top three though? Are they top three?
Yeah, top three.
Okay, top three. Okay. USC, as we know, had a really good sack performance against Washington State. 5 sacks on the game, and have now pushed themselves into the lead with 24 sacks in the nation, number one in the nation. Ryan, you know how many sacks they had last year in 12 games?
In 12 games, did they have like 12 or something?
Do you really not know how many sacks they had?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. No, they not 12. A little more than that.
Like 15.
No, they had 21 sacks.
21 sacks. Okay.
24 in 6 games. So
they're more than that.
Well on their way to. Well, they've already blown that number out. But
yeah,
take it or leave it. USC leading the nation in sacks is more impressive than the 12 interceptions.
I'm going to say leave it. I think the 12 interceptions is more impressive. And Lincoln Riley kind of talked about that today at practice a little bit, saying that it's not just about the pass rusher guys. It's everybody. You need, if people aren't covering, if you're not, chipping a wide receiver at the line of scrimmage, whatever, to disrupt the play, you're not getting to the quarterback as much. So I think it's very impressive what they're doing. But the 12 picks that's pretty impressive too. Okay. I'm not saying one is not. They're both very impressive, but I would probably go on the picks side.
You took every one I threw at you last week. So far, you're only leaving it. So let's see if we can get one.
Okay.
Tuli Tuipulotu, as we mentioned, monster game. I believe that's his second game with at least 4 tackles for a loss. Just 3 sacks in the first half alone. Just absolutely dominated that Washington State offensive line, and he finds himself as the sack leader in the nation with 7 and second in the country in tackles for a loss with 12.5. So just an outstanding first half of the season for him. Tuli Tuipulotu, take it or leave it, is USC's leader over Jordan Addison for a first-team All-American selection.
I think so. We got to see. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's got the numbers. Not that Jordan doesn't have the numbers, and he also has, the reigning Biletnikoff Award winner.
He had a quieter game.
Got banged up a little bit.
He talked at practice, so that usually means like you can breathe easy. He's probably good to go for this weekend.
Yeah, it's not like if he came over in like a boot or something and talked to practice, he'd be like, oh. Because we saw like Shane Lee like with a cast last week, right? And
at the game, yeah.
Was it that game? He didn't have one in the practice.
Well, last week in practice, what he was wearing. You're gonna get me shot, man.
Huh?
You're gonna get me shot.
Oh, we're not allowed to talk about this.
You're gonna get me shot.
We can't. Well, we saw him at the game with the cast.
He was wearing a cast at the game. Yes. He
had
like a little cast on.
Right, which you could see on TV. So we're allowed to talk about that. Yeah. So
you're banging on the door.
I was like, don't talk about injuries. Yeah. So I think it was a good sign that he spoke at practice today. I think he can definitely be up there, and he's got the name recognition to go along with it. But just, leading the nation in sacks, one of those things is like, that's going to get you.
It's one of the resume points.
Yeah. It's like, it's tougher for a defensive lineman, especially sometimes you maybe aren't getting the, maybe you're getting more pressures. Maybe you're, doing your job and you're going to grade out well. Like if an NFL scout's looking at it and like, hey, his job was just to contain here. It's not really to get after the quarterback, whatever it is. And like, he does his job every time. That's harder to see. And that's harder to vote for or whatever you're doing award. This is not hard. Like, who has the most sacks? Tuli. Like, that's pretty easy. Any of us could figure that out. So I'm going to give him the ned. So I'll take it.
I hope he gets an All-American nod. I think he deserves to be on that All-American wall.
Yeah.
Considering, kind of the season he went through last year and just kind of sticking around and being a guy for this defense. Next one, take it or leave it. Cortland Ford not getting the call for Bobby Haskins on Saturday when he went down briefly, which they inserted redshirt sophomore, freshman, redshirt something. Mason Murphy over Cortland Ford was more surprising than running back Austin Jones not getting a single touch on Saturday.
So you're saying...
I'm saying Cortland Ford not coming in. They went with the young guy, the less experienced guy, Mason Murphy, was more surprising than Austin Jones not getting a single carry or touch against Washington State.
I'm going to leave it because I think the Austin Jones aspect is more shocking, if that's the way that goes. For Cortland Ford, we saw him, the previous week. Just seemed like he wasn't quite 100%. Gets that holding call, and then they hold him out. I feel this was more of a kind of like similar to, I guess it was the Oregon State game where you just was held out, right? So he's been held out before. I feel like they kind of put him back in that category. Maybe they brought him back and he wasn't quite ready. So I think that's where that's going to go. The fact that Austin Jones, and if you want to talk about, well, he gave up a sack this one time, but I mean, I think like Riley said himself, he's not taking people out for making a mistake. He mentioned that about Cortland Ford. Like as a younger coach, someone makes a mistake, you pull him out of the game. He would have done that then. He's not doing that now. So something's, I don't know if it would be an injury or just, the fact that Travis Dye's been doing so well, they're just going to give him all the carries. I thought you'd see at least some snaps. We've seen some 2-back sets before. Maybe we see some more of Austin Jones against Utah. I'm not sure, but someone that was featured very prominently early on.
He was running super well.
Yeah.
To start the season, like beasting. And now nothing. I just find that surprising. Maybe he'll be re-released this weekend, against a really physical Utah defense. Austin Jones runs hard, probably the biggest back they have in terms of size and weight. So it'll be interesting to see if, maybe they use a little more number 6. But it looked like he was playing because I believe he was on some special team stuff. I saw number 6 out there. So I don't know. It's really interesting.
It wasn't Blackman?
No, it was not Blackman.
Okay.
It's just really interesting. And, Shotgun will be able to confirm that. But I'm pretty confident I saw him, play on some special team stuff. So I don't know if it's health. I don't think it's health, but it was just really interesting because I even tweeted out, it's like, has Austin Jones not gotten a single touch this whole game?
I know.
It's just weird. But
pretty crazy.
The Cortland Ford thing is also weird because Lincoln was asked about that, why they went with Murphy, and he kind of his answer did not seem to me like it was an injury thing. It just seemed like they wanted to play Mason Murphy.
Yeah.
He said, we thought it was the right time. We just thought that was the best decision. And he also said, I don't know if you picked up on this, but he said something about, needing to make tough decisions. This is why they have to make tough calls or something like that. So I thought that was interesting. So I'm not really sure if it's an injury thing with Cortland because he made it sound like he was 100% going into.
Yeah, we've seen the 100% talk though, right? Shane Lee didn't play. Lincoln Riley's essentially lied about injuries, right? So we can't really trust if he says, "Oh, this guy's going to play."
So it's either two things. It's either Mason Murphy has jumped Cortland Ford, which
seems
surprising,
unlikely,
or he's still banged up, which I guess seems more likely, but we don't know. It's just a very interesting thing to put in the young guy over someone you said was healthy. So just something to keep an eye out for.
And real quick, Mark was saying, why isn't Darwin Barlow played many, if any, snaps? Well, I mean, you're not even getting Austin Jones in there. So it's if you're the number 2 guy and you're not getting snaps, it's going to be tough to be the number 4 guy and get snaps.
I got 2 more for you.
Okay.
kind of based off what we saw against Washington State, USC fans are more concerned about the offense over the defense going into Utah.
Ooh, that's a really good question. I'm going to leave it again.
But I made you think about it.
You did. I think I'm going to leave it because in the back of everyone's mind, they've seen what the offense can do. They know it can be like score touchdown every time. Yes. And they're slower to latch on to the fact that this is a good defense or good at what it does. It's not a force a 3 and out every time defense. It's a, bend but don't break, be opportunistic kind of defense that I think complements this offense when it's clicking really well. And we've seen the defense step up and make plays when on a day when the offense would be rolling, the team would just crush. But we haven't seen them both at the same time where the defense is sort of crushing and the offense is rolling, except maybe like the Rice game when you're getting pick sixes all the time. And maybe Stanford a little bit too, but Stanford still had some success. But we haven't seen them both kind of go. But I still think that they're more reluctant to say it's a good defense. If it's another game that sort of goes like Oregon State and the defense has to win the day in Salt Lake City, maybe they'll come around. But I'm gonna leave that one.
Okay, because it kind of feels like the offense in terms of like if we're doing like a trending chart.
Oh yeah,
it's like the offense was like this, flat, came up a little bit, and it hasn't been shooting as much, but still going up. But the defense has just been a slow. What is it called?
A steady climb.
Steady climb. It's just been nice and steady. Haven't quite caught the offense yet, but like you said, I think if the offense struggles again in Utah and the defense has a similar performance that they did against Corvallis, I think it officially will jump the offense. That's just what I think.
Okay.
That's just what I think. And I'm sorry I'm rubbing my eye. There's something in my eye.
It's okay.
Not because I'm sleepy.
I get camera sleepy. I do my work. The other thing I do on Tuesdays, which is dumb, I have an early morning workout, up at 5:15. So I just make the day longer than it needs to be, but it's kind of when it works for me. But.
I got one more for you. It's a little fun one. Doesn't really bear anything on this past weekend, but take it or leave it. Matt Rule will be coaching in the Pac-12.
I think I'm going to leave that one too. I think it would be great, like Colorado, Arizona State.
Maybe Stanford.
You should fire your coach, Stanford. But I think there's better jobs out there. And I know there's some people who are critical of how, crappy he did in the NFL, but
it's just a different animal, man.
It's a different animal. He's proven winner in college, and did it take Chip a while and he's rolling again? Yeah, he's rolling again. I don't think you forget. He turned Temple around. He took over a absolute dumpster fire. What USC's 4-8 last year was not what Baylor's team was when he took that over. And boom, made him great, and that's kind of been his calling card. So I think a lot of schools will go after that. I think a higher up in the pecking order school will take him. I think the Pac-12 schools would try to go after him. And the fact that they got their job open early probably helps, but.
Okay. Yeah. And remember, Nick Saban failed at the NFL level.
He did.
Urban Meyer famously failed.
Oh my God.
So it doesn't always translate. Pete Carroll's been the one guy, one of the few that have actually had success, and he failed early as an NFL head coach. So
even his failures early, he was a coach for 3 years. He made the playoffs twice. So he only got 1 year at the Jets. I don't know. That was kind of some of his stuff. Maybe it was overblown, but all right, good. Take it or leave it, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now what do we do?
All right. Well, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna study this Pac-12 schedule, and then I'm gonna get out of here.
We were at practice this morning, and a lot of the talk is about the environment at the University of Utah. We got the Pac-12 schedule. It's perfect. Yeah, it's tough. The last team, and I think you were telling me about this earlier. The last time Utah, they've only lost twice since 2019 and at home. And, that was a top 10 Washington team that came in. to Rice Eccles and got a win. But the USC 2020 version won there, but there were no fans, so it wasn't really the same kind
I
of
don't really
home
count it.
Yeah, 2020 years like bleh. And especially for USC fans. I mean, they went 5-0 and then lost to Oregon. Didn't go to a bowl game or anything. So yeah, I don't think USC fans count that one, but that doesn't really count. There's no muss. But it was funny kind of talking to some of the players today. Like I talked to Travis Dye, and he's played there a couple times when he was with Oregon, so he knows the environment. Raylan Goforth, who's USC's linebacker, USC starting inside linebacker, he played at Rice Eccles. We got that win, but it was 2020 when there was no crowd. But he mentioned Eric Gentry, who played there last year when he was with Arizona State, and so it's funny to see the kind of mix of people. I got to look and see if, I'm sure Brendan Rice has played there. I'm sure Mekhi Blackman has played there. We haven't talked to those guys yet this week. But yeah, there's dudes that have been
Austin Jones.
Probably. Yeah, I would assume so. So it's kind of a neat mix. Even if the USC players didn't get to see what that environment would be like, most of them, because they didn't get to experience it in 2020, some of the other guys on the team were. And this being the second, tough environment, the first one being Corvallis, you hope that they can learn something from that, but we'll see. But yeah, it's a lot of the talk this morning was about the environment.
And just to be clear, you're not counting Stanford.
Stanford as what?
The Stanford road environment.
No, that's not a road environment. That was more USC fans than.
You're not counting that. Just to be clear. Okay.
Certainly is not counting that one. No.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the X factor in this one will be how USC handles the road crowd this time around, particularly the offense, because the defense really did not give an F about where they were playing. They seem to embrace that. So I think they'll be fine. This is a tougher offense that they're going to have to go against. We know Utah, very good at running the ball. Tavion Thomas, 21 touchdowns last year. He hasn't played up to that level as he did last season for their conference championship team, but still a dangerous player. And they lost Brant Kuithe. Is that how you say it? Keithy.
Yeah.
Brant Keithe was a big weapon for them. They don't have
like the downfield attack.
And they still have
not explosive offense.
They still have it's not that explosive.
But Cam Rising's a stud.
Cam Rising is a dude. They have they still have big bodies, receiving core. The 6'4" guys. Dalton Kincaid, big tight end. Munir McClain, former USC Trojan. He's a big body guy. So they have those big bodies that USC's cornerbacks and safeties are going to have to deal with. But not outside of Cam Rising. There's no real dude. Tavion Thomas, if he starts playing the level he was last year. So it's going to be an interesting battle for this defense. But just how that offense will handle a sold-out, packed Rice Eccles. It's going to be loud. It's going to be jumping. Maybe not as overly hostile as Oregon State crowd was in terms of signs and stuff like that. We'll see. But I'm expecting it to be really loud, really maybe a little bit chilly. It's just going to be really interesting to see how this offense handles it. And as we know, the offense was out of sync. Caleb Williams wasn't making those crisp passes. Footwork is off. Mechanics were off. USC passing offense a little bit off last week against Washington State. So we don't really know what we're going to get out of that. We'll know by the first drive what kind of game it's going to be. If they go down and score the first drive, okay, this is going to be different. But if they come out, 3 and out, can't even move the ball for one first down, I think we're going to be in for, okay, this is going to feel like more similar to Corvallis than it's going to feel towards, one of their good offensive performances. Utah, they got their shit kicked in a little bit against UCLA.
They did.
And I know they're going to be coming out looking for not a get-right game, but they got to get refocused. And yes. I think they're going to look at that tape and they're going to be like, man, we were trash, but we're back home, Rice Eccles. This is a USC offense that has a lot of weapons, but, they can be stopped. We've seen them be stopped. And USC's looking at the same page. Lincoln Riley and them are looking at it on the opposite, too, this was a good defense, but they got worked against UCLA. Let's look at what they did. And I believe it was Justin Dietich or Brett Nealon who said, based on the UCLA game, though, it's a one bad game for a good defense. They were a good defense going to that game. They're going to be a good defense after that. You just kind of got to throw it away a little bit and kind of focus on the tendencies. But still, it's a game where Utah got exposed a little bit, and I'm sure they're going to be looking at that to try to gain any advantage. So really interesting, head-to-head, an offense that didn't have a great game, a defense that didn't have a great game. Who's going to get right on Saturday?
Yeah, and I think for USC, you're kind of waiting to get that offense clicking again. That was certainly a good Washington State defense. They got a lot of pressure on Caleb Williams, seemed to be rushed. But they could rely on the ground game. And, in the road environment, maybe you're doing that a little bit more. Travis Dye I talked to this morning and asked him if he was tired. And he said, no, 28 carries, it's a lot. He kind of laughed. It's like, no, and I could do more. So maybe you see more focus on that. And I don't know if Lincoln Riley was willing to do that as much before. Even some of these drives that they had, I think they had 4 3-and-outs against Washington State, which just seems like a lot for this offense. But a lot of times it was like throwing a deep shot on first down as opposed to just running the football. You run the ball, and if Dye only gets like 2 or 3, it seemed like that move, the chains were going to start moving. Like you were going in the right direction. But then, and you're throwing like a deep sideline pass or something on first down, and it doesn't get completed. And it's just one of those things where it just sort of spiraled. And I think maybe they'll rely on the run a little bit more. Depends on what Utah does. They famously do a lot of man-to-man stuff, and it might be tough to match up with some of these receivers. We got to see how healthy Jordan Addison is. But yeah, it's going to be a good. I mean, I think it's going to be a tough test. I think Washington State's defense better than Utah's, but they weren't in this environment. You're going to be playing against a good defense in a tough environment.
I believe Caleb Williams is number 1 in the Pac-12 in terms of completion rating when going up against man coverage. And he might be last or in the bottom when it comes to zone coverage. So perhaps Utah will be stubborn, similar to the Matt Fink game a couple years ago where they just played man the whole time and let Matt Fink chuck it down the field and get beat by USC's superb wide receivers. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think they'll go a little more zone. But they got a really good cornerback in Clark Phillips, and that should be a good matchup with Jordan Addison. Mr. Pick Six himself, Clark Phillips, a local from La Habra. I know a lot of.
He's got 4 picks and 2 picks.
He's got 5 picks. 5 picks.
Is he at 5 picks now?
He has 5 picks. He is tied for the nation's lead, and he's also tied for the nation lead in pick sixes with 2. So
yeah,
that's going to be an interesting matchup. Him and Jordan Addison. I'm excited to see that one up close on the field. I know a lot of USC fans are probably, cursing the previous staff for not recruiting Clark Phillips because,
one of many mistakes and misses.
So
just on the recruiting trail, like that was, you see that. It's one of those things where, like a guy like Max Williams wasn't going to come to USC. He wanted to come. He's like a stud, and the staff was like, he's too small. Blah blah blah. Bunch of guys like that out there, and then they go somewhere else and they got a chip on their shoulder. There's like an origin story to why is that guy so good against USC? Well, there's an origin story. Like a Marvel villain. Like they was like, oh, they're like the Joker version of that. Like they're they wanted to go to USC. No one recruited them, and now they have a chip on their shoulder, and their whole point in life is getting revenge. So you hope you kind of avoid some of those. They're going to happen, but when it's a stud like a Clark Phillips, and you're like, why did the staff not recruit him? What was the defensive back up in Oregon? Why am I blanking on his name? He was a local kid. His sister played like soccer at USC, and I'm blanking on his name. But he ends up getting drafted in the NFL. He was a DB. He had length. I'm blanking. Tommy something maybe. I can't remember. Thomas Graham. Was it Thomas Graham?
Thomas Graham.
Yeah,
I believe he was a USC commit.
He was, and then the staff dropped him, and they were just like, yeah, I think it was like a staff change or something, or I don't remember exactly what it was. But then they essentially dropped him. It's like, why? Like it wasn't like a Max Williams thing. Like he was small, It was just like, yeah, you don't like him. It's like legacy. His sister playing here. He wants to be here. He ends up, going to the NFL, I believe. So yeah, that's one of those things where you're just like, why? Mistakes that were made.
Mistakes were made.
Many.
Every staff of every team always has misses. It just happens, Sometimes, you have misses. A guy maybe you should have been higher on. But it seemed like the USC staffs over the last couple of years have had a lot more misses than the normal.
Yeah.
Than average.
Yeah. All All right. Let's. We could take a quick break and do some questions. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of chat about before we go into all this other
You
stuff?
said we have a lot of questions, so
We might as well get to the questions. All right. Let's take a break, and we'll be back in a minute. All right, we're back here on the Peristyle Podcast. Chris, do you have a good break?
marvelous.
Marvelous. But thanks for sticking with us, and we want to get to all of your questions. Why don't we go start off with a voicemail?
All right.
Let's do that.
Let me listen.
Yo, this is for the flagship show of the Peristyle Podcast Network for the Tuesday Chris and Ryan show. What did I say? This is Eddie from Orange. I've been telling you all year, this defense is out of this world. I don't know who this Will Anderson guy is, but I don't know why he pretends to be as good as Tuli. This defense is phenomenal. The refs try to set him up, to make him look bad. They pulled it out. Best second-half defense in the nation. Top 25 defense when it comes to allowing points. This defense reminds me of like Nate and Nick Diaz when they were younger. You know, they would go into a fight. They had to get bloodied up a little bit before they would wake up. But once they woke up, they would put the person out, just pounded them. And that's what this defense does. It just pounds you. It gets tackles for losses, gets sacks. You got, just a bunch of gorillas down there in the front seven blowing things up. USC fans, they don't deserve this defense the way they've been treating them all year long. They don't deserve Alex Grinch. They don't deserve Lincoln Riley. But sometimes it's not about what you deserve, it's what you get. And what we got is one of the best defenses in the nation. Eddie from Orange County.
Eddie, bringing it, calling out you USC fans that are complaining about this defense. What do you think, Chris?
Well, one, I know Eddie is I'm pretty sure it's the same Eddie that is a massive composite 2-star recruit listener. So I'm sure he's devastated with the news today that we are not doing an episode this week. So I'm sorry to him and his family, but I do not deserve this defense. That's an interesting statement. I know he's, what I like about Eddie's voicemails is that he always just goes a little bit extra than, being over the top.
Yes.
Just a little bit, but
it's a style.
This defense isn't out of this world, but it is a pretty good defense. Will Anderson is not doing a Tuli Tuipulotu impression, but Tuli Tuipulotu is a beast. He is up there among the best defensive linemen in the country, even though Will Anderson is a generational number one type pick. But Tuli Tuipulotu is playing. He's earning himself some money, certainly in the draft process, as a guy who could go earlier and earlier.
Eddie is heartbroken, by the way. He's in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Eddie's in the chat. We just heard you from you, Eddie.
He's the guy who wants he was the guy who's
24 hours?
No, he was championing whatever. Yeah. He was pounding the table for the 3 hours. We did the 3 hours. Now he's pounding the table for 4 hours. Well, Eddie's not getting 0 hours this week, so he's probably very devastated.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah. He seems to be devastated, which is fine, but I appreciate that.
But I agree with what he's saying. It is a good defense, and yeah, USC fans are a little hypercritical about this defense because, but remember what they had last year. I mean, compared to last year, this is a top 10 defense in the nation.
Crazy
Turnaround
compared to what was going on last year. Like, come on. And
I do like the Nate Diaz comparison. I don't watch a lot of USC, but my brother does, and he explained Nate Diaz a long time ago. Okay. He's a guy who just takes a lot of punishment. He's got an iron chin, but he will dish it out twice as hard. So that's been kind of his secret. Sometimes he'll get knocked down a lot, get knocked out, but he's a guy who will just keep fighting, and that's a good analogy for this defense.
We got a text. What a win. Even if we were sweating for a bit, I noticed that Coach Riley has been strategically resting some key players in the past games, leading up this game for Utah. He said the offensive line, if we can't comment on injuries, which is 100%, I agree with, and understand. We've been able to open up plays and win in different ways. Is there, quote, another way to win that we haven't seen yet? Thanks, Peristyle family, and fight on.
The only way I can think of is straight shootout.
It's true. We haven't
Like
seen
straight shootout, like 45, 42 shootout. Just a barn burner. And USC gets the ball last with like 2 minutes left, and they got to score to win. We haven't seen that, nor have we seen the complete performance. I feel like I'm not counting Rice, but just like a performance where USC's offense is just firing all cylinders downhill, and USC's defense is like playing like Oregon State.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the complete both sides of the ball. Those are the two off the top of my head.
All right. Let's go to an email from Roger Newport. You were criticizing the sideline assistants for their overzealous towel waving during games.
Yeah, Ryan.
I wasn't. People asked me.
Yeah,
opinion.
Ryan.
I was not criticizing.
Number one hater.
I was asked my opinion. Not a huge fan. The team is full of so many newcomers that the question was whether Coach Riley could change the team culture and adequately develop a true brotherhood in so short a time. The past few years, there have been very little excitement during games, and too many players were selfish. The towel waving helps those on the sidelines to cheer for good plays, even if they share the same position as the one who made the play. The selfless culture is confirmed all the time in post-game player interviews. Sincerely, Roger Newport. I think it's a stretch, Roger Newport. I think the culture is great. Like the way there was a question of how it would come together. I think Austin Jones would be rooting for Travis Dye without some dude waving a towel to show. I'm pretty sure that's not a correlation. Get what you're saying? Would disagree with the premise, but that's just my opinion.
Number one towel hater. Number one towel guy
Certainly
hater.
not a number
Ryan
one towel
Abraham.
hater.
Publisherusable.com/towel guy hater.
Yeah. We already got to stop the towel waving, please. Comments. I'm not going to put up all the comments. I did this. I think I did this last week where we put up some like positive ones.
You did?
Blackie Chan, I love the towel waving. So we got some.
They're about to start a fight in the chat.
Some loving and some not so much loving of the towel waving stuff. So thank you for that. But I would not say I'm a towel waving hater. I was just asked my opinion. Like if I would I recommend that? I would not. Not my thing. Tim in Costa Rica says, I love the international questions. The defense again was the Trojan strong performer. Travis Dye is just a stud with a lion's heart and no gloves. My concern is Caleb Williams continues to be off the mark too frequently. Do you think there's a lack of consistent focus? He seems to act a bit nonchalant sometimes. Thoughts? What Tim in Costa Rica says.
Nonchalant, as in on the sidelines, or
I think he's talking about, and I've seen this. I play like volleyball with some dudes that are like this. Sometimes I'm not saying Caleb Williams is being like this. Sometimes you see like the Kobe Bryants of the world, like guys that just make it look easy, and it just sort of like looks like they're kind of coasting, but they're really working, but they make it look easy. It's like a very nonchalant kind of attitude. So I think what he's implying is that Caleb Williams is sort of just like kind of cruising and not really like as being as intense. I've definitely played like volleyball and like baseball and stuff with guys like that are sort of would rather like look good making the play. Like they think they're like, I'm not going to like get down in the dirt and get that ground ball. I'm going to, pick it and, and make it look good as opposed to, they're just kind of relaxing as opposed to just like diving for the loose ball, whatever it is, like where you don't care what you look like. You just want to go make the play. In volleyball, like, diving for things, going over, and some guys are just too lazy and they'll do like one hand stuff. And so I've seen this before where you're like this, you could do it, but you're kind of doing it in a nonchalant kind of way. And I don't think that's what Caleb Williams is doing, but I think that's what he's implying, if that makes sense.
Sure. But also athletes, I will never be able, I cannot comment on any athlete's sort of like mental process of how they process like having a bad drive or a bad game or a bad play or things like that. Every athlete is different.
Yeah.
There's guys who will go to the bench and slam their helmet and not want to talk to anybody. They will not give out, guys come up to give them handshakes or whatever. They don't want to talk. They want to be alone.
Right.
But there's other guys who would just go and try to just, walk up and down the sideline, shake it off. I've been on the sideline. I watched Caleb, maybe after a drive that doesn't go his way, he'll just walk up and down the sideline kind of by himself casually, and then he'll re-engage with the team. I cannot comment on someone's how they do things. He's been doing this his way. This is how he handles a bad series or a bad play or whatever. So maybe like Ryan was saying, some athletes are just a little bit, more laid back in a sense.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's laid back. He's a very highly competitive person. This is me literally as someone who has coached him in a sport. He's a highly competitive person, but I don't want you to take like his nonchalant body language or, I don't know if he's like referring to like in a play or in a huddle or on the sideline or in an interview. That's just his personality. He's a very kind of cool and laid back kind of guy. And I don't think that really, plays into, having an off game, whether that's, throws that aren't connecting. And, some of those were dropped. Some of those were not all on him. But I understand as the quarterback, as the guy who's touted as a Heisman guy, there's going to have a lot more criticism, pressure, eyeballs, whatever on him.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I don't think he's being too nonchalant. That's kind of what's affecting maybe him being off at times. Remember, he's still a young quarterback.
He is a very young quarterback. I don't think he's just trying to look cool out there. I think he's trying to.
I'm trying to look cool out there. It doesn't work.
We're all doing it. Let's see. LA Transplant wrote in quick notes from the game. So not really a question, Chris. But he says, one,
quick notes, yeah.
Tuli's a real deal.
Yeah.
Yep. 2, rush offense is legit.
Yeah.
Hard to disagree. 3, UCLA fans still non-existent. For the most part. And 4, Stanford is still but. Very, very, very true. Finding a way, you want to find a way to, USC's trying to find weird ways to win games. Stanford is pulling out all the stops on how to lose games.
Interesting.
How could you lose this one differently? Could you give up 18 points in the fourth quarter, a team that misses 2-point conversions and scores with 13 seconds left from 50 yards out? You want to do that? Yeah, you can lose that way too. It was an epic. I mean, they couged that one away. Like that was Stanford couging it.
I can't wait for Tanner McKee to become a dude in the NFL and just make it look all that worse.
Yeah, you're going to be like, this guy's
You're going to go back and look at
amazing.
this season and be like, what?
Why were they so butt? Like, why? You had Tanner McKee. How were you this terrible?
I think my official Stanford will make a bowl game prediction is like dead in the water. Predictions have not been my thing this year.
No, you've been.
So.
Yeah, what did we bet that we're going to make a bowl game?
Lunch?
Was that,
I guess
okay.
I kind of bought you lunch today, so.
That doesn't count, though.
He's going to want Nobu.
Yeah, I want Nobu
He's going to
lunch.
be like, I want Nobu.
I want Nobu, but then I want the garlic mashed potatoes from Mastro's, and I want, something like that.
Also, all those were tickets for us, I believe.
I think we took them all. No leaves. We didn't leave any of those. We took them all. Jeff, he's Rugs86, says, Ryan and Chris, this is for us. First, thank you for all you do covering the team. Certainly makes following the team more enjoyable. Well, that honestly, like that means a lot. Like we are doing this because people enjoy following the USC Trojan football team, and we try to enhance that. And if this makes your experience following the team better, what we're doing, that's cool. I love that, Chris.
I say we just end it there.
We should just end it.
Don't even get the question.
Question for you, and all Trojan fans, really. The narrative is that our offense is amazing and our defense is solid at best. Halfway through the season, SC is 5th in the Pac-12 in scoring offense and 1st in scoring defense, and 4th if you look at yards per game. Am I crazy thinking our offense is not as great as we believed and our defense is much better than we give them credit for? Thanks, from Jeff.
I don't think the offense is not great. I just think it's above average right now. I don't think it's like elite. I think it's can be great, but for the most part, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I feel like the category. It just comes and goes, but for the most part, if we're averaging it all out, it's like pretty good offense. And remember, there are some high-powered offenses in the Pac-12.
Yes.
like UCLA scoring points. Washington was going bananas with point scoring.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, but they were up there. Utah, I believe, is number 2 or something. Utah's
up
putting
there,
up points, yeah. So there's some teams in the Pac-12 that are putting up points. So USC, I think, is keeping pace with those guys. Maybe not as much as UCLA in some regard, but I would say a pretty good offense. And I think the defense is underrated.
Yeah.
A little bit underrated.
And I think maybe after this week, we'll see.
This will be a real test of where, because we've circled this game as being the one that's going to tell us the most about. I think we've learned a lot from other games, maybe more so than we thought.
Yeah.
But this one's going to be the one to be like, okay, what have we learned through the first 5 weeks? How's that going to play out in Salt Lake City? What are we going to learn new about this team? What are we going to see as being not true? What are we going to see as being true? I think all those things will happen on Saturday.
Our buddy Eddie in Orange also sent in a text message. He's in the chat. He sent in a voicemail. He also texted in.
He probably commented on one too live.
What happened the last 2 times Utah played a mobile quarterback? What happened the last time USC had a mobile quarterback? Matt Fink versus Utah. USC is 2-1 in the last 3 games, including a blowout on the road. USC by 10. Eddie in Orange calling his shot.
We already said that road one doesn't really count.
Right. But still 1-1.
Still.
That YOLO game for Matt Fink.
The Matt Fink game, yeah.
Yeah.
That was wanted to play man against Matt Fink, and USC's receivers were just better.
Yeah.
Just better.
They were way better. There was a very stubborn defensive call that was a mistake from the very beginning. Roger in Newport, just a thought. If USC handed towels to the student section and led them with time to wave the towel, so they told them when to wave the towel, the waving might be more organic than contrived. Fight on a fan who knows nothing, really. And then, I'm sorry, that was an unsigned email. He didn't want to say his name. Then Roger from Newport along the side, he says, you were criticizing the sideline assistants for their overzealous towel waving during games.
Yeah, Ryan.
Oh, I'm sorry. We already read that one, right? I'm sorry. That was the one we already read. My apologies. So there was another towel question.
The students.
Yes. My apologies.
I do not like it. Sam, I am. That feels contrived. It's like, here. All right, Trojan fans. I can just hear DJ Malski being like, all right, Trojan fans, wave those towels for 3rd down. I hate it. I hate it. Will not. I am anti-student towel. Tell them when to, in live studio, press the button to applause towel waving.
Okay.
I am only sideline towel guys, team sideline towel guys.
I'm going to give a shout out to the real DEGG. He's going back to class. So he was watching for a while. He had to go to class.
Is he leaving? I want to know what class it is. He's still there. Tell me what class it is.
What class is it if you're not... if you've not left already. All right. So there was another towel thing. We got an email from Tina in Los Angeles. So question for this week. She even gives the date so we know when the question is. So very, very appreciate that.
Learn something from
We're
Tina.
learning a little bit. 1, is this considered a redshirt year for Damani Jackson, or is he injured again? From my eyes, he looked pretty good. So that's the first one.
I do not believe it's a red shirt year. I have to check how many games he's played in. I believe it's 2.
2, yeah. So he can play up to 4.
He'll play up to 4 without it being a red shirt.
But it sounds like he's going to probably play in more. But although we didn't see him, right?
We'll have to check. I don't remember seeing him against Washington State, so we'll have to check. We'll probably do a red shirt report soon with who's played and how many games so far. So
yeah.
That's probably a bye week thing. But right now, I don't expect him to redshirt. I feel like he might get a couple more games.
I kind of think so too.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just a matchup, but you're right. I mean, they were playing like a lot of dime, and he didn't play against Washington State. So you're like, maybe they play more on the road against Utah. We'll see. Her second question, Tina's second question, do you think Corey Foreman would be better off at one of the linebacker positions? Thanks, and fight on. Fight on, Tina. Thanks.
No, because, I mean, I know he doesn't have a sack on the season, but Corey Foreman's potential as a pass rusher is much higher than him as a sort of middle of the field linebacker.
Okay.
That's where and I don't feel like I don't think I've seen him. It's not like I've seen him play like this in 7-on-7 or like at Corona Centennial. I've never seen him play like middle of the field linebacker.
No.
I just don't That's just really
He's always
hard.
been kind of like a rush.
Yeah,
end kind of guy.
it's very hard to go from like being a rush end down defensive lineman to linebacker. It's easier to go from linebacker to like
Obviously.
defensive line like Solo has made, or even Stanley Tauafu, the Tongan Terror. He was the linebacker in high school, and they put him at the D line. So much easier to go from the middle level to the front as opposed to the front to the middle level.
Yeah.
There's just more spatial awareness. You have more responsibilities and coverage. I don't see it.
Yeah.
He's a rush end. He's a pass rusher. That's where you keep him.
Hold on. We have some
Oh no. What is it?
breaking news. The real DEGG, Architecture 205.
Wow, this
Says
guy's
thanks.
smart.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I almost became an architecture major.
Really?
And then I realized I suck at math.
That
You would never want to be in a building I produced. I'll tell you that right now. So shout out to someone who's good at math.
Yeah. Man on the Moon, kind of a follow up to Tina's question. Foreman needs to put on more mass.
Tackling mass.
A little tackling mass, yeah. But if you want to play linebacker, you probably didn't do more mass. All right, a couple more, and then we'll get to the chat questions. During your most recent Peristyle podcast, you and Chris spoke about how it gets a bit tiring recapping the this was the I'm sorry. This was the update thing.
Let them hear it.
Okay.
Read it.
So
Let's see
here's
what they think.
the idea. I was like, where did I put that idea? I put it right in the stock. So that's good. Basically an idea for our recaps. We do the take it or leave it. He says on special teams, he says, maybe you should shorten the recap and answer in a similar style to how Coach Riley summarized special teams thus far. He says, at special teams, quote, kickoff has had some good games and some bad games. Kick return is a, quote, disappointment. Field goals have been, quote, really good. Punting is a, quote, strength. And punt return is solid, quote, solid. Basically, give adjectives or a brief couple of words to summarize the offense, defense, and special teams performances for the game. He goes, I'll go first. So this was for Arizona State. He said, quote, offense back on track. Defense, let's try to have a second half performance become what's seen all game. And then special teams, hands teams need a bit of work.
So it's like it's like a tweet length review.
Yeah. I think, yeah. So more of like 140 character, the old
Yeah.
Twitter 140 character, or even less than that. So a few descriptive words. Yeah, we could do something like that. I like to take it or leave it, but that goes a little long too.
Hey, watch it.
Keith wrote in, this was from last week, so it's kind of outdated, but he PS'd and said, Chris, I wish you clean up your language a little bit so I can listen to this with my kid. I think for the most part, we have fairly clean language. There's going to be a swear word or two every once in a
How
while.
old's your kid?
Yeah. I'm
Wait,
not
is this
sure.
a comment or is it?
This was his PS. Like the question was like an older one. Yeah.
Oh wait, to the Arizona State.
Yeah.
guy?
This was a post Arizona State question. Yeah.
Okay.
That
I feel like I only curse like maybe once a show. More people could tell me. I really don't.
I think if it's one of those things, like I was listening to another podcast that like a Pac-12 one, and there was just a lot of swearing, and I get it. Like that's a prominent part of the show. I would not say that using an occasional curse word is a prominent part of our show. It's just something that would be mixed in there a little bit. And
I only use a curse word when it underlines my point of what I want to say.
yeah. All right, we got a lot of. I've started way more questions than I wanted to, but I'll try to go
rapid
through these.
fire?
Yeah, we'll try to rapid fire these. Cameron, what are your thoughts on the Desert News article by Kyle Whittingham? Was it Discreet News? What was that? By Kyle Whittingham on his distaste for the transfer portal and for Coach Riley.
Do we have the exact quote, or
I don't have the quote on me, and there was a lot of, I think there were some Utah fans in the chat, and there was a lot of NIL talk. Just for the record, like USC's a, big school, Los Angeles, Hollywood, all that stuff. If you're Caleb Williams, if you're a superstar, if you're Jordan Addison, you're going to get a good NIL deal. Like the top guys are going to get NIL deals. It's not an NIL factory. Like they are not giving everybody money. They're trying to, there's a booster run collective that's trying to do that, to give all the players money. So if you think this is like, oh, everyone's getting $1 million checks, like that's not, USC's way behind the curve on the NIL stuff. They happen to be in a good position with, they got the Boulevard thing going. If you're a superstar, you're going to make money being in Los Angeles. That's a good thing. But if you're like, like a stud offensive lineman like Andrew Voorhees, like, you know, the odds of you getting some kind of, you know, Beats headphone deal like a Caleb Williams are, you know, it's pretty slim. And it's not like what you've seen at like Texas A&M and Tennessee where recruits are getting paid big money to go to a school. Like USC is just not that way yet. Maybe they'll get there, but they're behind the NIL curve, if anything. If that makes sense.
I think you hit everything.
Do you agree with that one?
Yeah.
All right. Better recruiter. This is from Amir. Dante or T? So he's talking about
Higgins?
Dante Williams,
T Higgins.
T. Martin.
Why
T.
did I say
Martin.
T Higgins? I think because the guy I played this week has T Higgins. Oh, that's a great question. This is a question I probably should ask Gerard the next time I see him.
He might.
Gun to my head, I'm saying T.
I think I'm going to go T.
Just gun to my head.
Yeah.
Just gun to my head.
But both are really.
But they're like right there.
Right.
It's like this, but I'm just going a little bit.
I love the avatar here. It's a dog, a Lassie dog. What are those? Collies?
Border Collie?
Border Collie, yeah. Dog's life in Portland. To get to the playoffs, which positions are the most concerning to you?
Which what?
Positions. So.
Oh, like position groups?
Yeah, I'll probably go offensive line just because I think,
Depth, yeah.
you know, there's definitely concerns there. And you can say Caleb Williams hasn't looked as good, but some of it is he's running for his life a lot of times.
Linebacker. If they can't get
more
Shane
depth,
back, yeah.
But some of those, I think those will probably be the focal points. But yeah, I think you get the offensive line right, you can making the playoffs one thing. Like you're going to need rebuilding of both line, like everything, if you're going to try to be a competitor in the playoffs. But you can make the playoff, you know, with this roster, I think. This is from Augustin about the Towel guys. Who do I got to talk to get more Towel guys on the sideline?
Talk to me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Waiting for that NIL towel deal.
Yeah, get one of those. James says, can you talk about what needs to happen for USC to end up in the Pac-12 championship? Can they lose to Utah and still make it? They certainly can.
They certainly can.
Yes.
But if you want them to get there, beat Utah.
Yeah, no more divisions. It's going against your record. There'll be some head-to-head. I think if it's like a tie, like a three-way tie or something, like then you would see I think it's going to be like how they're ranked in the college football playoffs, but I don't believe they've announced that part yet. But yeah, they certainly could lose to Utah and still make it. You just have to be in the top two in the Pac-12. Big game, USC-Utah. Big game the following weekend, UCLA at Oregon. So essentially like four contenders right now with Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Utah. Anthony, question, should the elevation be a concern? With the offensive line rotation, has that been addressed by Riley yet? We didn't talk elevation this morning.
I always forget about elevation.
Yeah.
I think it's at some concern, but most of the time, every time we talk about it, the players seem to kind of downplay it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, just extra running. We'll do extra running.
A little conditioning.
A little extra conditioning. That's kind of what the standard for Utah week when they go there.
Yep. Andrew says, is Travis Dye the MVP? 6 games down.
Like team?
Team MVP. I mean, I go Tuli or Travis probably.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like those two. I mean, Caleb obviously is in there, but you could talk me into it. Like if they gave Travis MVP, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
I see it.
Question, player of the game predictions for this week.
Player of the game. I am terrible with predictions, so you don't want any.
So bad.
Who's worse, my prediction offense or Stanford?
Stanford.
Okay.
Stanford's worse.
Thank you. Off air is going to say no. It's you.
I mean, I had to think about it for a second, which should concern you.
Wow.
Stanford's.
I'm 0 for 15.
The last 3 weeks?
Or 1 for 15. Or maybe 0 for 10. I think I'm 1 for 15.
Yeah. That's no bueno. MVP. Let's see. Oh no,
Travis Dye.
Player of the game. Yeah, I think Dye's a pretty good. Because the environment's going to be tough. If they do well, it's probably going to be because Dye's running well.
Run game susceptible for you. Run defense for you. Yeah. Susceptible. So.
Yeah. This one's a longer one. Let me see. Did it fit in or did it get cut off? No, it did. From John Walker. I wonder if this is our buddy Jay Walk. One thing that you could always count on during the Pete Carroll era was when they played their best in the biggest games. Do you see this team stepping up their game in a similar way? I don't know if they've played their best, but they've showed they've showed resiliency when things have gotten tougher. And people are like, oh, they didn't play anybody. Like when they played Oregon State, they were undefeated. They were on the borderline of getting ranked. When they played Washington State, same thing. They were on the borderline of getting ranked. They should have been 5-0. They had lost to Oregon, blew a lead there, and handled their business in both of those games. So, I think it's fair.
We can say the defense certainly played their best at Oregon State.
Yeah.
In a game they really needed them to.
That is true.
So
yeah.
I think we're confident the defense can show up. Will the offense show up? That's kind of the question. And, you can make the case that maybe they were not looking ahead, but this is a game that everyone's had circled, Ryan. You've had circled. Everybody in the chat has had circled. This is the one. So it's going to be interesting to see how they have processed that game in terms of, hey, this is the one. This is the one. This is like the pre-Pac-12 championship. This is the one that gives either one of us an edge going forward. So this is the one you got to bring you got to wear your big boy pants, Ryan.
All right. I think we got one more from Ryan Harvey. I've noticed that the players, I think he corrected himself, are not reviewing plays on the sidelines like we see in many NFL games. It's just not something that's typical on college sidelines. So I think I don't think you can have a
TV.
Yeah, like before in the NFL, you could only do they would flip through still photos or mimeograph or whatever. Now they have tablets and they can look at stuff. I don't think they do that in college, right? I don't think they have anything like that.
I think the most you can do is talk to the.
Yeah, you can talk on the headset. Yeah,
in the box. It's funny because high school games you can watch every play.
Yeah. We got to do Andrews. He says, what Trader Joe's food would you feed Eric Gentry to gain weight?
Oh. Brookies?
Those brookies are good. Oh, my God. There's a lot of calories in those. Oh, so good. Yeah, I would do those.
Pasta?
I like a lot of the fresh pasta that they have there. So, but they're kind of like individual portions. So we probably put 3 of those together for him. Grab some of the sauce, grab those frozen meatballs, put it all in together. That would be a good one. Carbo load. Get him some stuff. All right. I know we have a few more. I think we're going to wrap things up, but thank you guys all so much for writing in, for listening, for calling in, for putting in the chat, watching us live. We appreciate all of that. You don't have to do all this stuff. So thank you for doing it, taking time out of the middle of your day or whatever you're doing to check it out.
Go back to work.
Go back to work, you live YouTube people. No, we don't discourage them from watching the show live. We're not it's about the same time every week at least, but
if enough people stop watching this, we won't do them anymore. I can yawn without
being called out.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Ryan.
That's true. We had a comment, JoJo's cookies. Those JoJo cookies from Roger. Yeah, those are good too. So many good things in the frozen now. Just get a bucket of the peanut butter chocolate cups. Man, those are good stuff. All right. Well, let's wrap things up. It was a fun show and hope you guys all enjoyed it. Chris is now checking out the Pac-12
What are accomplishment points? Oh.
That's he does advanced metric stuff. You want to show the camera
You gonna zoom in or something?
So that's we got it from one of the Pac-12 Podcast of Champions listeners. Andrew does these eye charts and make fun of them all the time, but the schedule is pretty cool. And then he had some metrics that accomplishments points or something like that. But yeah, so we do that one out. So
not yawning behind this.
Not yawning behind it.
Definitely not.
All right. Well, for Chris Trevino and the schedule, I am Ryan Abraham. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you next time.